I'm gonna try and pull a miracle. Trying to pull several miracles out of my ass, but we'll see if that works. I'm just
I
tired.
just saw a news article that Uranus opens up once a day to jettison hot gas. Science, bitch. Come on.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 562 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Paul E. Cooley. Joining me, as always, Mr. Terry Mixon.
Ooh, rock me, Amadeus. No.
I want to rock with you all night. Hey, man, I could have belted out some dancing on the ceiling for you if that would be better. Lionel Richie.
I think the listeners would like that.
No. Tiptoe through the tulips. Oh God. Ugh.
That was awesomely worse than I could ever have imagined it would be.
It was impressive in its vileness.
Not only should he never sing, he should be ran out of a rail and tarred and feathered.
Run off a rail? Ran through a rail?
Run out of town on a rail.
Run over a rail?
Run over by a rail and thrown into a tar and feather.
Okay, enough of this awkward, getting really stupid segue. How the hell are you, man?
It's good. Considering? Yeah, the last 2 days, it's the old man stuff, trying to prep up for all of those evil procedures where you have to drink the nasty things and sit on the toilet for like a day. It's pretty ugly.
And you have to do it again.
Yeah, because it wasn't good enough, so I get to do it all over again.
So let me get this straight. You shit out a concrete donkey, and then they were like, this isn't clean enough. You're going to have to try again.
That's right. The donkey's not all the way out, is
You're
what they said.
You're a filthy, filthy boy. Whew, I always knew you were full of shit.
That's what a number of people have said, and they are all correct.
They are absolutely all correct. Well, what about the writing front?
I finished the End of Empire novella. I'm in the process of redlining it. I'll take it to Vegas with me when I leave on Saturday and get it all redlined when I'm gone so that it'll be ready to come back and do the final read-through. So it's written. I'm happy with the skeleton of the story that I've got there, the framework. It'll turn out really nice. I think folks will like that. I got back the copy edits for Ruined Terra, so I will get that published before I leave for Vegas. Yay.
Yay, indeed.
My bank account will thank me for that. What else am I doing writing-wise? That's it. I think that I'll start writing the next Empire novel as soon as I get back from Vegas. Speaking of going to Vegas, I'll be gone for a week going to the 20 Books Vegas conference, so I'll be hobnobbing with other writers and thinking and doing writerly things.
I can't really imagine you hobnobbing.
Okay, the phrase hobnobbing is a little lofty for me.
The phrase just does not convey anything to do with when I think of you. It's not even related. Not even closely related.
Considering that the rich and powerful always live on Knob Hill, shouldn't it be knob hobbing?
Well, I have been writing again now that my disasters are over. The robot demo went well. I should hear back on that in the next week or two. And the other job is going to slow down immensely, if not go away. We'll see. Which leaves me time to actually fucking write. So I wrote like 2,000 words yesterday, and I think I wrote 600 yesterday. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm actually getting like sleep at night. It's.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, I know.
Is this really Paul Cooley that I'm talking to?
I know. It's like I go outside even when there's sunlight. It's terrifying. My wife only had to use the fire extinguisher twice. Anyway, that part's over, so now I'm trying to get back in the swing of things, catch up on the backlog for DRS, catch up on the backlog for my own podcasts, catch up on the backlog of all the correspondence I have that was waiting for me. All the little forget-me-nots and everything else I had to do. Yeah, everything kind of like slid aside for a while. So I'm having to crawl back through it and get everything back up one piece at a time. But happily, I wrote. It was amazing.
That is awesome. You need to do more of that.
Yeah, I know. I put out a tweet today that said, "Dear Universe, fuck you, I'm writing." And that was such a good
You
boy.
need a t-shirt that says that.
Oh man, I wish. I wear it at all the coffee shops where people want to come up and bother me. That never happens. Nobody comes to me and bothers me when I'm writing. Luckily. Hasn't happened yet. Nobody knows who the hell I am. Well, that's not true.
You know what else we're going to be able to do now that your life has caught up a little bit?
A live show?
Record the show more often on a regular schedule.
Yeah, we have a couple of episodes in the can now, so we're covered a little bit. I'm doing my best to try not to make the gaps, but it is what it is.
Life is what it is, man.
Life is what it is. So hopefully no more bursts, but no more appendixes or anything else go blow up. Well, I know I won't lose my appendix again because that's just not going to happen. If that little fucker regrows, we're really going to have a problem.
You should write a story about that.
No. Some things are too terrifying for me to even, think about.
It's back. The appendix is returned. It's the prophecy.
The Mythwits,
have a doctor do that. It's the prophecy.
The Mythwits also had me on, author Phil Rossi and I on for a horror talk on Halloween. So I'll try and remember to include those notes. But if I don't, you can go up to YouTube and find it. YouTube.com/Mythwits.
Was recently on Keystroke Media talking collaboration, but I'm not sure if the episode is out yet. Or it probably is, and I just didn't see it.
I think I remember seeing an ad for it or a post about it. I don't remember.
They're much better about getting the shows out in a timely fashion than we are.
I've been good until like the last couple of months.
I meant recently.
Oh, well, yeah, it goes without saying. I mean,
by the way, they're using a bit of live software that I sent you a link to. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to experiment with that.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. In the meantime, I think what we really should experiment with is finding a topic.
Marijuana? Is that what we need to experiment with?
What's to experiment with? What? How do you experiment with something like that?
Obviously, you've got to use a scientific method.
I think you pretty much know where you're getting after the first time. I mean, after that, all you're doing is experimenting with strains. That's about it. Not like I know what I'm talking about.
DRS experiments with marijuana, and you see the window roll down. It's like Cheech and Chong, this wave of smoke just coming out of the podcast window.
I'm telling you, one of these times we need to start this with us wearing 70s wear with just massive Cheech and Chong sized doobies just kind of hanging out.
I seriously need to watch some of those shows again.
Why?
Because they were outrageously.
Oh, God, that'd be so bad. That'd be so bad. I'm sorry. I still remember the steering wheel made out of chain that's like this big. The steering wheel is like this big, made out of chain.
Yeah, pretty much.
That Cheech is driving. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Did he say, I have this so you could drive with handcuffs? Oh! Yeah, that's Cheech. Yeah, I could see him saying that, too.
I don't think he was kidding about that. Anyway...
one never knows.
We should probably get into this episode. This was recorded after the appendix type error craziness. So, yeah.
We've got a couple of shows lurking in the can for you patrons. So you may hear references to things that have happened deep, deep in the past. Do not be alarmed. Do not be dismayed.
It all worked out fine. I promise.
He lived. He promises.
All right, let's get to it. All right, topic.
Sequels.
What about them?
Should you? Shouldn't you? What kind of considerations do you have, whether deciding to go into it, not to go into it, or if you're going to do it, how to actually execute a sequel to something you've already written. And for me, that's not too much of a problem because everything I write is a sequel.
Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
write in series.
So let's remove the series from the equation.
Ooh, that's scary. How do you do a sequel without a series?
mm-hmm. All right. So I would say if it's a series and it goes 3 books or more, then it's a series. If it's just 2 books, it's just a book and a sequel.
Okay, I'll buy that.
So when should you? When should you, Terry?
There are at least 2 pathways of consideration there. One of them, I think, is storytelling. If you've got unfinished business or you think that the characters' plots and or world can be continued on in a way that's going to be entertaining to the readers, I think that's a viable reason to consider writing a sequel. The other one is financial. Series do better than standalones. So if you think this might be series material, you're not going to get to book 3 if you don't write book 2.
True. I was pretty much going to say the same thing. The unfinished business part is something that is really easy for me because I love leaving dangling plot threads, as does Terry, actually. We both do it. And part of it is, I think, our brains are telling us there's something else there, or we came across it and went, that's something I really want to deal with later, some other time. And so you leave it there.
That's a great ending. I think I should do something even more terrible to my characters.
You at least give the idea that we may be coming back and treading some more ground. And if you are smart enough to leave those threads, and they can't be major, they cannot be major, they cannot have an impact on the story that is going on. We'll get to that in a minute. Hang on, don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. If you're writing 2 books, if you wrote the first book, and you leave a plot thread dangling, it better not be a main plot of the book, unless you have already planned this sequel. There.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that because I was about to go ahead and
I know you were going to get all technical and everything else on me.
I was going to throw an example at you. Empire Strikes Back.
What about it?
Major plot hanging at the end of that sucker.
But that's a trilogy.
It is, and it was already planned to be a trilogy. So when you closed up the statement you were making, okay, I'll buy that. But I was like, otherwise, there are plenty of books out there where you just leave them hanging.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you're trying to decide if it's a sequel or it deserves a sequel, is it a character that you like? Is it a character you can continue on with? And like you said, is it a world that invites more investigation? But that leads to the whole series thing. Sequel is usually, I have one more thing I want to take care of. Or I want to provide closure for this idea. Or whatever else. That is a little bit different than, starting up an entire series on something.
So what's the purpose of writing a duology as opposed to a single standalone book? And why go 2 if you're not planning on doing, the All Hallowed trilogy?
The All Hallowed trilogy. It just...
I only say that because a lot of people think in the power of 3, and 3 is a powerful number for people.
It is. I'm not going to go against that. I'm not going to go against that at all. But I think it just depends on what kind of story you've got. Thomas Harris has a series of novels with Hannibal Lecter in them. However, there are only 2 Starling novels. She's the investigator in Silence of the Lambs, and also in the follow-up book, Hannibal, which is a sequel to that book. It is actually a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. The 2 books stand alone, but they stand better with just the 2 of them because they don't have anything else to go. The second book completely finishes their journey. So that's what it did. That's what it was designed to do, was to basically take those two folks off the board, and we see how that ends.
You know, when you're talking about Hannibal Lecter and taking somebody off the board, that has a whole different set of connotations.
Okay, fine. Should I have said takes them off the cutting board, or should we make some more knife puns?
I think that, you know, the author of the Lecter stuff should go ahead and he could put a title in there that is completely innocuous, that means something completely different. Like Breakfast at Tiffany's is totally different if you're writing a Hannibal Lecter story.
Would that be never mind. I'll let that go. Some things just shouldn't be said. Anyway, that is a case where it really is just a sequel. I have the idea for a follow-up book to Closet Treats, which I need to write. Is it a sequel to Closet Treats? Depends on how you define sequel. Does it pick up where the other book left off? Yes, a decade later. So everybody's older, everything's changed, but it is essentially a sequel, even if the protagonist may be somebody else than was in the first book. That would be a sequel, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And even though if it's part of a series, so to speak, it's still a sequel to the book, even if it's in a series. It's a direct sequel to that book.
One of the things that a lot of romance authors do is they'll write trilogies and quadrologies that are set around the same landscape, the same town, and they'll have different characters within that. Sometimes the characters will meet one another. Sometimes one book will be the outgrowth of another. A secondary character then becomes the primary. Other times, the characters have never met.
Right.
The characters in book one do not meet the characters in book two.
And again, it depends on what kind of story you're writing. It depends on how it's structured. And that's, I guess, the question you need to ask yourself when you're asking, do I need a sequel? If you don't know you need a sequel by the end of the book, I don't think you need a sequel.
The next question you need to ask yourself is, does this need a sequel? Is, can it support a sequel?
That is the even bigger part. There are books where they didn't have enough material for the second. Movies too. They just didn't have enough material. There weren't enough open dangling plot threads. They had to make new ones, and then sometimes they feel very forced.
If you've pretty much wrapped up your story in book one and you try to force a sequel where the story is actually done, you may run into some trouble with your readers. It's different if you're writing something like a mystery, because it's okay in a mystery to have the plot stuff end up. You've solved the murder. You've put the criminal in jail. And then you have another mystery after it. But a lot of other genres, if you close up the story, it's kind of hard to justify coming back to the well again.
Yeah. I left myself so many outs in the black, it just wasn't even funny. And that worked out to be a boon, but it is certainly not sequel material. Although, I will say, Evolution is a direct sequel to The Black. And Extinction is a direct sequel to Evolution. So there's your trilogy.
I've got so many dangling plot threads in mind that I've got, what do you call it, a paralleloquel lurking out there.
Paralleloquels. Oh my God.
Isn't that what your first three Black books are? Paralleloquel?
There's the Black, and then there's two paraquels.
Is that what it is? Paraquels? I wasn't sure
That's
what
what
the
I
right
call
word
them.
for it is.
I don't know if it's the right word. It sounds right.
That's perfectly valid to me.
It's just you say it and people go, huh?
What the hell's that?
Is that like a oh God, never mind. God.
Step back from the story you're about to tell. Step back.
It wasn't a story. It was never mind. Just a comment from my mental peanut gallery. Needs to shut the fuck up. God damn it. That's gonna be the big piece. Did you leave enough there? If you have a character like in a mystery you're talking about, and it's time for another mystery, or you're planning on having another mystery, then yeah. But I think you have a series on your hands at that point.
The one kind of exception I have to that is if your characters are static. If you're writing Clive Cussler novels, Dirk Pitt does not change from book to book.
Right.
James Bond does not change from book to book. You can have a complete story there and pick up back again. But if your character is growing, you may run into problems with having a sequel where you didn't leave yourself. And with those are adventure. Both of those are adventure. So an adventure begins and an adventure ends, and then another adventure later begins. So in a way, that's kind of like mysteries.
Okay. We were talking about change. You may also get to the point where the character, there's nowhere else to go. And at that
you
point,
have become the god emperor of the universe.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, there are certain things that happen that are irrevocably change the character to the point where writing another book would be very, very difficult because of what happened to them during the last book or the first book. Sometimes story just ends. Sometimes we just need to say goodbye to the characters and wander off into wherever we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
On the flip side, and I'm not going to mention an example of this because I have one in mind that I'm not going to go to, is if you do spend the time to take a character through a series and have that growth take place, do not wait until till a few chapters before the end of that to utterly upend their apple cart from what the reader expects, and then expect the readers to follow you to a new series with that character. Some will, some won't.
You'll have to tell me the example later on.
I will. It's not like you don't already know. You just don't know you know.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You have never planned a sequel. You have always planned series. Is that correct?
My mind is always on the work in progress. I'm not really thinking about what kind of story I'm going to tell next because I'm too busy thinking about the one I'm already telling.
Well, what I mean is when you were writing Empire of Bones, you knew that was going to be a series.
Yes.
You knew when you wrote Humanity Unlimited that it was going to be a series.
Yes.
I
write everything as if it's going to be a series.
See, there we go. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I love to read, and that's what I want to write. I'm not a fan of standalone books or even trilogies are okay, but I'm much more a fan of the open-ended work that you don't know how many books it's going to take to tell out the story.
Right. I get it. I completely get it.
There's nothing wrong with those others. It's just not what lights my fire.
Right. No, I get it. I get it completely. Believe me. In general, I don't necessarily plan, but it keeps happening that I end up having to come back or that the story gets too large for one book. And that's another thing is, can you fit the story into one book? Maybe it needs to be broken up into books.
Sometimes you're busy writing a story and you reach a certain word count and you go, I've got to stop. And I don't have this story structured, and you've made yourself backed into a corner. I've been there.
The financial and marketing side is where it can get really rough because from the folks I know, and admittedly, that's a very small focus group, but still, they're much more likely to buy a book that has, that's going to cost $3.99 as opposed to one that's going to cost $7.99 if it's an unknown quantity and an unknown author. So if you have 2 books worth of material, it might behoove you to put it out. Just know that there are some people who are going to get grumpy about it. But I don't know. Fuck them. Put part 1 on it and be done with it. But now you're going to say something, and I guess I'm going to say it before you get a chance.
Go ahead.
If you put part 1 on something, don't necessarily expect it to get a whole lot of people at first. Because I know the magic number of 3, people wait 3 books to get into a series. They'll wait for 3 books to be out.
I remember reading Robert Jordan's stuff. I started with his Wheel of Time back before it even had 3 books out. So I started when it was actually happening. And I got to book 3. I was like, it's not over. It never occurred to me that the series was going to be more than 4 books. So I got book 4 when it came out, and I was like, it's still not over. Then I read book 5, and I go, okay, I'm stopping until the sucker's done.
And he died before it was done.
And he died before it was done. I made the prediction that he would die before it was done because there was so much stuff going on in that series. I still haven't read past book 5. I will eventually have to do so.
God. Ugh.
I was young. What can I say?
Well, how long did he write that book, that series over?
Oh gosh, I want to say that I started reading it back in the 80s, maybe the early 90s.
Holy crap.
I'm not really sure. I'll look it up on my phone while we're talking because now I'm curious because it was a long time and there were definite gaps of waiting between the book. It wasn't like a book a year.
Right. Yeah. There's like a book every 3 or 5.
At least that happened every once in a while. So, waiting when you see something that's big and you got to wait, you don't want to be George R.R. Martin.
Or Stephen King with the Gunslinger series. Dark Tower series. Don't make me wait 30 fucking years. It makes a reader grumpy.
Then you get the movie where they try to stuff it all together.
Oh, God. Train wreck. I know you liked it, but you knew nothing about the series. If you know nothing about the series, I'm sure it's fine.
The first volume, Eye of the World, was written... Writing began in 1984, and it was published in 1990, and it went to 2013 of him publishing stuff in that, according to the Wikipedia entry.
So 23 years.
So I started in the early 90s because I came into it when there was either a book or 2 in existence. It was before the 3rd book came out.
Okay.
And there was nothing that said, this is going to be a trilogy, but I just made the assumption because everything back in the 90s was a trilogy.
Okay, I can see that, yeah. I can see that. Oh, this goes back to managing reader expectations.
Nowadays, you see plenty of books in a series that, like J.D. Robb writing her in-depth books. I think there are like 46 books in the series at this point.
Dear God.
But this is Nora Roberts, so the woman can crank out some books.
Ugh. No thanks.
Ugh.
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 What?
Ugh.
Don't you be hating on Nora.
I'm not hating on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
All right.
It's just if you come up with a formula, you can just kind of plug shit in, move it around, and you got a new story.
To some degree, that's true.
It behooves you financially to do that, by the way.
It totally does. If you're like David Weber and have God only knows how many books in his Honor Harrington series, you're going to keep writing those books because with each and every one, you've got a guaranteed captive audience that's going to come along. People are already invested at that point, and they're going to keep investing.
Yeah, and then you'll get one of those lunatics who will go, oh, this is a series. How many books are in it? Oh, let me start that from the very beginning. So you're going to get them instead of 1 time, 50 times.
Well, guess what? We've had people like that pick up this podcast. I'm going to start with episode 1.
You guys are sickos.
You mad fool.
You guys are sickos. What is wrong with you? Good God. Ugh. No taste. Just no taste, no sense in this world.
10 years ago, gosh, you don't even want to know what we were advising. Don't listen to us. Do not listen to us back then. We didn't know what we were talking about.
And I wasn't there, so I can't be blamed for any of those shenanigans. Until I showed up anyway. I don't even remember what that was. Are you back? I'm under kitty attack. I don't know why I'm under kitty. Dude. Okay. We may or may not have a shadow incident here.
So if you decide that you've got enough to support a sequel, how do you go about it? How do you pick up the pieces of where your standalone novel has ended and then start a new story with all the pieces parts you've got laying around?
Oh boy, there's a few ways to do that. First off, if you're going to write a sequel to a standalone, you probably need to make it standalone too.
All right, now how does that work?
Yes, I'm glad you asked, asshole. There's a couple ways to do it. One is which I don't recommend. Last time on so and so and so and so, and you basically recount what happened in the previous book. Don't do that. Best thing to do is to bring us back into the character's life. How has their life changed? What things have happened as a result of the last book? Were they promoted? Did they lose a love interest? Do they have a new love interest? What has changed in their personal life? Give us that first.
If they had a happy ever after in the previous book, have them start walking out of the divorce proceedings.
Yeah, pretty much. You're basically no. You're right. You're right. That's a really good way to break us back in, and then we will find out what happened since the last book, and people who didn't read the last book will get a clue as to what happened.
I could just see somebody do that. Oh, that was a great book. What? They're divorced? What the fuck is this?
I'm sure it's happened. I know it's happened. That's my favorite way to read a sequel, is if they do it that way, where we just get dropped in. There may be a prologue. Maybe there necessitates one, regardless of what Terry Mixon says. But give us an introduction to what's going on with them now. We don't care about the past. You basically need to act like you're writing book one again, but you have more information about the character, and the readers have more information about the character.
I don't know that I would agree that a prologue should be used for a recap.
I said you may want to add a prologue, but I also said you need to look at it like writing book one.
If you're going to write a prologue, here we go. I'm going to get up on my milk crate here. If you're going to write a prologue, it needs to either be separated widely by time or have a different point of view.
Yes.
Agreed. Because otherwise, it's chapter one. Just get on with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. Shadow.
Although, you can let me have it because I wrote an epilogue.
See, the epilogue. There's a whole nother conversation there.
Which different point of view than anything else in the book. Mm-hmm. Characters end in their story going, things are looking up. We've conquered what we need to conquer. Woohoo! And the epilogue is, let's see how we can totally screw that up in 2 pages.
But see, again, that's set up for another series. That's set up for another book.
It is. It's totally setting up for the next book.
Sometimes an epilogue just needs to be a nice way to say goodbye to the characters.
Yeah, it's true.
When I wrote passage this epilogue, of time, or with a passage of time, or passage of scene, or the conflict being over, there you go.
I'll buy that. The only reason I used an epilogue this time, whereas I've not before, is because I kind of solved most of the imminent problems that they had. And if I was going to leave the lead into the next book, I needed to foreshadow the oncoming train from the next book.
And here we go again.
You disagree?
No, you're just such a series slut. It's just ridiculous.
I'll spread my pages for anybody.
Oh, damn! Wow. Hey, baby, I'd really like to split your infinitive.
Dirty writer jokes. You know, as a complete aside in this, I had to rewrite.
I want to diagram your sentence.
In Runeterra, I had to rewrite a scene that I was doing, the dialogue in it, 3 or 4 times to get it exactly the way I wanted it, to have the kind of banter that I needed to have in there that had that type of innuendo in a way that wasn't dirty.
Mm-hmm. Well, dirty is the wrong word. Was subtle. More subtle?
Oh, it was not subtle. It was not subtle at all. Somebody challenged someone else, not one of the point of view characters. Somebody said something that needed to have a response that belittled them from Princess Kelsey.
Okay.
And so they were warriors, so swords, whetstones, and daggers came into the discussion of belittling them. I'll bet you can't even find your sheath with that thing.
That's called a challenge.
Yeah, it kind of was. It was necessary for the story at that point to distract the bad people that were being a little too suspicious. So then came the verbal banter that needed to take place. And it's not something I've done before in this series. So
Distraction. Mm-hmm.
The person she was pretending to be would not have taken what was said sitting down.
Gotcha.
There would have been a response. Just like you can imagine your Marines in your story. If somebody made some offhand semi-sexual comment about them, they're going to go ahead and slam back.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what this was.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be... If you're going to shit talk, you're going to shit talk. And people who work together like one another or don't like one another, there's going to be some shit talk.
In a way, I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's exactly what this bit of dialogue was shit talk.
Yeah. And it's realistic. I mean, when we were in a warehouse last week working on the robot and stuff like that, and there was people coming in in and out all the time, and Craig and I were talking to one another, and every once in a while, we're working on something technical, and it this, that, and the other about this cord being in the way, and suddenly the insults would fly between us. And we were saying some pretty nasty shit to one another, and the other people in there are just like, are these two guys going to get in a fist fight? I'm thinking, we've been friends since we were 13. This is how we talk to one another. This is how we converse.
There's a certain point in your relationship to where that's how that works.
Yeah, it's grumpy old men, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon walk out the door. Hey, good morning, dickhead. Just like start from the very beginning. It just doesn't matter. It just sets it up. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, I could totally see that. We
got sidetracked from that, but from the main topic. But I've never written anything like that into this particular series, and I'm actually particularly proud of that sequence. I'm very proud of this novel. After having read it through twice, I enjoyed it. I think that it's pretty damn good. I like it.
Cool.
That's a rare thing for me. I usually finish writing a book, I'm like, I don't know if it's any good or not. The readers are gonna have to tell me. Now, of course, they'll probably read it and go, "Oh, this sucks.
This is the worst Terry Mixon book ever." God, he's finally
wrong again.
He finally went off the deep end. What is this
hack?
Shit? That hack. God, I can't believe I bought 11 books for this asshole, and he turns this in. Oh my God.
He was just phoning this shit in.
I've worked on this book for 6 months. Yeah, he phoned it in. He totally phoned it in. Yeah, I could see readers saying that completely.
That must be a reporter saying. It sounds like a reporter thing.
It is. It absolutely is. I phoned in the article.
I was going to help you with this, Dad. I was going to chew it now.
I don't have a spray bottle. I think I'm going to invest in one.
I loves it. I don't know what it is, but I loves it.
If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're doing it wrong. No, don't
You
lift
must
that
be
paw
talking
up.
to me, Dad. You're talking to me. I just knows it.
Oh my God, he's never been like this. He's tail going over the place. He's just looking for shit to fuck with.
So, we need to start drawing this to a close.
We do. So long and short of it is, it sounds like we agree that sequel means you've got material of some kind left over or some other part of the universe that you created to explore, which probably has the same characters but doesn't have to. However, if it doesn't involve the characters from the first book, then it's not really a sequel. It's, I don't know what to call it. Another book in the world of whatever. Right?
You can slew a whole bunch of standalones in the same setting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it a sequel.
No, it makes it a series.
No. I'm saying you can have all kinds of stuff that are unrelated. You can have multiple standalone books in the same setting.
Right. Again,
that aren't that's not part of a series.
I would say they are.
A series requires continuity.
Oh.
And I don't know that just having them in the same setting is enough to qualify. We may have to wrestle for this one.
I think you're wrong. I've
been wrong before.
I think you're wrong.
Hasn't stopped me yet.
Because if I write standalones for the Four Horsemen universe, it's still a standalone in the Four Horsemen universe.
I've written 7 stories for the anthologies in the Four Horsemen universe. Mm-hmm. A couple of them actually are related to one another. If I look at the rest of them, though, they're standalones. They're in the same setting, but they are not serial in any way.
I would say that by virtue of there being a universe and multiple stories in it, that it is a series.
We are going to have to agree to disagree. Folks, we're going to have to put a poll up inside the group to see what people think about this, because we are in violent disagreement.
I wouldn't say violent.
Your cat would.
Well, yeah, because he's Shadow. Right now he's looking at the mouse going, I wonder if I can move that. I heard that he was stoned. I don't know what his problem is.
Did you put out some catnip?
Not to my knowledge. Buddy. Not to my knowledge, but he's definitely acting like he's on it. So, stuff that you want to tie up. The character deserves another story, and you didn't make things too final at the end. In other words, do not shoehorn in a sequel. Have a real reason for it. Do not bolt on bullshit. Have a real compelling reason for it. And it needs to be standalone in and of itself. It's just drawing elements from the first book into it.
I agree with that.
There we go. I have said it definitively. That is our opinion. There it is. That's the official DRS line. I'm going to puff up my chest.
Cross it at your peril.
Cross it at your peril. Oh, crap. Am I doing the exit for this?
You are, because you basically grabbed the reins as soon as we started talking, so it's you.
I can't even read my monitor because somebody has... It's been that kind of day. Well, if you'd like to tell us how wrong we are about sequels, or, tell Terry how wrong he is about that last conversation, you can... Did
you freeze? You had a stroke. You're dead.
You can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook at the Listeners to the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. You can find our channel, youtube.com/DRS podcast, if and when you want to see our ugly mugs. We have to thank
Don't do it.
We have to thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 14 bazillion episodes of DRS available for your ear holes. If you want to support the show, and God, why wouldn't you? You can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to unexpurgated shows, live shows, and other content, things like that. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And this week's $10 patrons are Andrew Smallwood, J.D. Barker, Aaron Meeser, Veronica Jaguar, currently recording Pain Before the Storm for Jeff B.R., who I assume means Jeff Brackett. Kelson, Isabel Cushy, Rick, I joined the Cliffhangering Bastards Club. Shaw, welcome, my son. Lisa Slack, Nathan Cosby, Cheryl Winters, Tracy Bodine, Devin Lee, Drew, Angry Fiesta, Rodan Bernardi. I'm still want to hear what this means. Send me an email. Chris Winder and J.R. Handley. Thank you very much, folks. You're helping us keep the lights on and everything. So thank you very much, patrons, all of you.
It is deeply appreciated.
And with that, we're going to get out of here so I can do more coding and maybe even some writing.
What?
And Terry can get back to being Terry.
I have enchiladas in my future.
Enchiladas.
That's my celebration for getting the book off to the editor.
Sounds like a plan. With that, we are out of here. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.